Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. Today we're going to be going over Anne Rice's The Mummy, or Ramesses of the Damned, #1. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work. This is Random Access, number 32. It's a full-size, full-color comic book that I produce every month. It has this month is 36 pages, and I have usually had my own work and then had backup stories by Paul Courtjohn, Chris Knox, or a whole bunch of other people, James Duncan, and but I'm opening it up. Jeremy, I'm sorry, not James Duncan, Jeremy Duncan. I am truly sorry. But I'm opening it up to more artists and other artists, and I'm going to build it up to 20 pages, hopefully. And as you know, with anthologies, it's really kind of hard because everybody has their own timetables as to when they get things done, and they're all working on different projects and stuff. So I'm going to just try to build up a stable of artists and have them do as much in random access as can possibly be done, because I really love to share the joy of comic book creating and all of that kind of stuff. And there's so many great indie artists out there that I really we really need to spread the love. This cover was by Jeff Bartran, and it's so fantastic. It's so powery. It's so heavy metal. I love it. And like I said, there's some new things in the works. Random Access logo is changing. There's a couple different logos we're going to be trying. So there's a lot going on. Like I said, you can pick these at patreon.com for $3 for a month, and you get an issue. And yeah, so it's up to number 32. Or you can get it at my website, alexanderturbin.com. Or you can go to, you can contact me at alexturbin0441 at Yahoo, which is my email, or alexturbin0441 at Instagram. So there's lots of different ways that you can check out Random Access, and there's lots more cool stuff going on. So let's get into Anne Rice's The Mummy. The last Anne Rice thing that we looked at was the Vampire Lestat by Innovation Comics, and I'm not entirely sure when that was made. Early 90s, but this was definitely done in 1990 by Millennium. And Millennium did a bunch of different, usually they did stuff just like this, where it was like either an adaptation of a movie or a TV show or something like that. And I don't know if they always did painted stuff, or this type of artwork like Innovation did. But I kind of feel like maybe Millennium came along and then turned into Innovation. I don't know. I don't know that for sure. But I kind of don't think that's how it actually happened, though, because I think Innovation was part of the group that was bought by Malibu Comics. So I don't think Millennium was one of those. But it's adapted by Faye. What's her name? Faye Perozich, and the layouts by John Herbert and Melissa Martin, painted by Mark Menendez, and art direction by Melissa Martin, and edited by Mark Ellis and Paul Davis, and font design by Deirdre DeLay, and art assist by Chip Skelton. This is quite an artistic undertaking, and I really do appreciate all of the different kind of stuff that they do. Now, it says painted. I don't think this is painted. I think this is pastel. I think this is a charcoal pastel, or what do they call it? It's a charcoal pastel anyway. Unlike oil pastels, where it's different. But I think it could be a combination of the two. I'm not entirely sure, though. I just kind of think that it's the charcoal, because it really, everything blends together so much that I really feel like, and the texture of the whatever it is just it just looks so much like a pastel that I can't think of it as being either like an oil painting or a acrylic or any other kind of painting. So I'm not entirely sure it is painted. Let's delve into it, and then we'll talk about the art and the writing afterwards. It starts out in Egypt, obviously, because this is the Mummy, and that's where mummies are. And it starts with an archaeologist and his trusty helper, his trusty Egyptian helper. And this is supposed to be, I think, back in the 40s or 50s, whenever the mummies were, their tombs were stolen, or grave robbers or whatever got into them and stuff. And so it starts out with the archaeologist, and he's talking about the different languages that he's, or the language that he's trying to what do you say? He's trying to not enunciate it, but he's trying to figure out what it is. He's trying to do the inscriptions, and but they're in Latin and Greek, so it's not just in Egyptian hieroglyphics too. So anyway, this whole book is very not a lot of action. There's actually no action. It's a lot of talking heads. If you love Anne Rice, you love the books, then you might like this. You might enjoy this. But for me, it was very it was very I didn't understand a lot of it. It was very confusing because I didn't know who the characters were, and they don't really do a good job of being clear on who the characters are, where they're in relation to other characters and stuff like that. This is Samir. So Samir is the Egyptian, and then Lawrence. Lawrence is the archaeologist, and he's just kind of, they're talking about the mummy, obviously, and it's Ramesses the Damned is the mummy, and I'm just trying to convey this the best way that I can, because as I said, the comic book is very confusing. So I get really, when I come across a confusing comic book, and I've read it once, and then I feel like I've read it enough times that I can get a grasp on what they're trying to say. But even then, a confusing comic is a confusing comic, and if you don't have the all of the information, then it's really kind of difficult to review, or difficult to go over and say what is going on, because I don't know a lot of stuff that's going on. The story is very simple, so I'm thankful for that. But the archaeologist Lawrence is he found something, and he's kind of come back later on to inspect it. That's basically how the introduction started. But then he goes off into his tent, and his nephew, who is a gambler and a swindler and stuff like that, and all he cares about is drinking. And the uncle really despises him. So they go back to the tomb, and I guess they do some sort of explosions to get there. No, it was a trap. It was a booby trap. So they do get into the tomb, even though they say it's no tomb, but there was a booby trap. I don't know. It doesn't say whether anybody was hurt. They just kind of get out of the way. But it's not a tomb. It says it's just some sort of coins and some a sarcophagus and stuff like that. I know, but here lies an ancient pharaoh, my friend. I swear this is Roman period. It's a Roman artist who imitated the 19th dynastic style. Touch not the remains of the Ramses the Great. It's enough to give a sensible man pause. Not this sensible man. Get those workers in here to lift this lid off at once. And so they do, but they're kind of, no. He sends them off. He sends the workers off because he's going to use his archaeological whatever to get into the sarcophagus and kind of explore it around. But the Egyptian says there's danger of contamination, and Samir is the one that tells the workers to get out of there because he says there's danger of contamination, and then Lawrence says something, Julie, my darling, if only you could see. I think that's his daughter, or his, it's either his daughter or his niece. And so it flashes back, and they do kind of a good job of showing the flashback in a way in which it's a flashback, because obviously it goes from the interiors of the Egyptian tomb to this ballroom kind of thing. And I do love the all of the little details of the curtains and all of that stuff. I'm a big Downton Abbey fan, which, I mean, it's kind of weird because that's seems like that wouldn't be one of my things, but I really love Downton Abbey for some crazy reason. And this has a very good Downton Abbey feel. It's got an older, Victorian age kind of feel to it. And so it's got a great amount of people, and he's looking, Lawrence, I think this is Lawrence, and he's looking down at his niece and nephew. But then I believe that it's his brother, and they're discussing Egypt, and they're discussing the kids and stuff. And but it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense as to what they're talking about. I think they're in debt. I don't know if both of them are in debt. But they're trying to get her married off to, I think, this rich person, but she doesn't want to because she's like a modern suffragette woman, and she doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want to get tied down to anybody. She wants to be able to go off to Egypt and explore and do all this kind of exciting stuff. And he says, that's fine. We'll go to Egypt. I don't care. Just marry me. But she says no. She's not ready to get married to anybody, but she does love him, and they're dancing, and he's still, holding out hope that she might marry him, but she's not going to. And so that's pretty much how it ends. And it goes back to the tomb, and Lawrence and Samir talking about the tomb and the curse and all of that stuff. And he's like saying that I don't believe in curses, and they're and this is none other than a letter from Cleopatra to Ramses, a storyteller. Lawrence, that's what the man was. If you believe in the curse, why not in an immortal man? The mummy is as dead as any in the Cairo Museum, and yet the ring is the cartouche of the cartouche of Ramses the Great. So we have not merely a storyteller, but a collector of antiques. So they're trying to figure out who this Ramses guy was, whether he was a king or whether he was a magician or whatever. So they're collecting his stuff, and then Lawrence is there, and Samir kind of takes off and leaves, and his nephew comes in, and Lawrence tells him not to touch the vials on the jar because I think they were part of the embalming ritual or whatever that the pharaohs used, and so he tells him to keep away from the poison. But then they get into an argument, and Lawrence says, "You were just a rich spoiled brat, and you've gambled away all of the money that you were given. That you were given a fortune, and you gambled it all away and stuff." And the nephew isn't having any of it, and he finally says he's yelling at him and stuff, and he finally says to Lawrence, "Here, have some coffee. I poured you this coffee. Have this," and it's obviously some poison from the pharaoh's tomb. And then it goes to the main character. It goes from character to character. You don't really know who the main character is, and if there even is one. And then he says, "Uncle," like he didn't really poison him. So I don't know if they're trying to say that the nephew didn't poison him, but the nephew is taking advantage of the situation, and he's taking some coins, and he's taking all of the stuff that he can, and he goes back to England. I assume he's going back to England. The niece, who is, I think, like I said, the daughter of Lawrence, and he's trying to get her to, or somebody's trying to get her to sign all of these papers and make some of the inheritance that she had, some of the wealth more liquid, and so she can add some cash and do whatever she has to do with it. And she does. I have a feeling they're trying to hoodwink or swindle her into giving away her all of her money. The nephew comes, and he is in back in England. I assume it's England, like I said. Not near the niece, which is Julie, I guess her name is. And so he goes and he's talking to his father, and they're just having this little squabble, and the father kind of is sad that his brother's dead, even though he kind of doesn't show it. I think he's kind of ambivalent about it, like he did maybe love his brother, but it's not really kind of shown. But the nephew goes to his mistress or his girlfriend or whatever. Let's see what the nephew's name is. I can't just keep saying his nephew. Henry is his nephew. Henry goes to this, I don't know, is she a prostitute? It kind of seems like that she's being set up as being either a prostitute or a gold digger of some sort, or somebody else who's just kind of a low life, kind of like Henry. He answers the phone. It's people that Henry owes money to, and but he yells at them and says, "I'll get you your money whenever I unpack and I'm ready to." So he takes off. I think he leaves the woman's house or something, and then this enforcer that wants the money that he is owed from the gambling debts and all of that stuff, he comes across him, and he's trying to get the money from Henry, and Henry gives him this gold coin or whatever kind of coin it is, but he's not happy with it. He's like, this is really cool, really great, but you're going to have to come up with quite a bit more than this to satisfy your debt. So he starts to strangle him or give him a hard time. And then Henry stabs him with his knife, pulls out his knife, stabs him, and kills the enforcer guy, takes his coin back, and then it cuts to Julie, I think it is, and she is either, I don't think she's in England, I'm pretty sure, but she's had Ramesses brought to her, or they brought him to there, and she's going to put him on display for everybody to see. But Samir is very hesitant. He believes in the curse, and she kind of really doesn't, because she's a modern woman. But she does want to put him on display for everybody to see, not because of the money, but because she thinks everybody deserves to see a part of history and stuff like that. What's his name? Henry, I think, comes by, and he's trying to again swindle her, just like the other. I think the lawyer was trying to swindle her. Maybe he was just trying to help her. I can't really make sure. But he's trying to get her to give him money, and she realizes this, and she says, "I'm not going to give you any money. You've lost all of this fortune and stuff. Maybe I'll help you out." And he says something about, "Are you going to leave us out of the inheritance?" And she just says, "I don't know." But then she starts to drink some coffee, and we think, he's up to his old tricks. But her eyes widen, and it's really Ramesses, and he comes in and he grabs Henry by the neck, and that's how it ends. So it's a simple story. It's a little bit confusing, but it's really only confusing because of the way it's done. And I'll explain, because as really nice as this looks, and like I said, I believe it's charcoal pastels or colored pencils or something like that. I don't think it's painted with either acrylics or oils or anything like that. And I do love the effort, and there's a lot of things that I really do like. I love the texture of the pages. I'm obviously talking about the art now, because the story, the dialogue is okay, and the story is good. It's an adaptation, so they work with what they can, and it's not too bad. But some of the bad things about the story is that they don't really clearly mark who is who. Like, this is Lawrence. If you're, I think you should say the character's name multiple times. If you're not going to have their name in a narration, then you should be saying, somebody should be saying their name. Like, hey, Samir should be saying Dr. Lawrence. What is this? What is that, Dr. Lawrence? And Lawrence should be saying, Samir, my Egyptian friend, or something like that. Something to, regain my memory of who these characters are. But I really like the textures and the stuff from the artwork. But the problem is, it's so like all of the panels are woven together, and that's fine. You don't have to have panel borders. You don't have to do it in a specific way. It just makes everything feel very claustrophobic, which is perfectly okay, perfectly fine, because you kind of want that feeling anyway, because you're in an Egyptian tomb, but later on it kind of doesn't. It still feels that way. So having all of this covered up and no panel borders makes it feel a little bit claustrophobic, which I'm fine. I'm okay with that. And the full bleed also, it makes it feel a little bit more television or movie. It makes it feel a little movie-esque. And it's some of the the pictures, panels, pages are really nicely done. I really enjoy this. It's like an establishing shot, but it's got all of these characters, and there's a lot of them. And it's got this Lawrence, and you can really kind of tell what's going on. I wish it had been on the other side, so it would go off into the other page, but that is the crux of the problem with the storyline and why it's a little bit confusing, because the narrative art of the artist is really kind of not that good. Maybe they go on to do some really great stuff and their narrative art improves, but I really feel like going from left to right, it makes it a little bit confusing. There were a few parts where I had to stop. I had to reread things. I had to backtrack. I had to go from one panel to another panel. Some of that is because of the lettering. The word balloons are this weird kind of oval thing. It's not hand created. It's I don't know if they were doing some sort of computer thing, or they had these word balloons and they just made them bigger and smaller, and they just tried to speed up the lettering process. But the lettering inside the word balloons are okay, but the word balloons themselves, it's very messed up and unorganic or inorganic, and it becomes very distracting, as well as some of the word balloon tails don't really go to some of the characters that they're actually supposed to go to. It does kind of seem like it does, but a lot of them don't. Like here, it kind of shows his shoulder, which, I have done kind of stuff like that, trying to speed up on the word balloon process. But it really makes a big difference, especially this should have been up here. And I think that's what they did. They saw the art, and this was all superimposed on there after they did the art. And I think they were like, oh, we don't want to cover that hand, so let's move the word balloon down. And that is a failure, because we don't really need to see this hand anyway. So one of my problems with the artwork, other than the narrative art, which kind of makes things a little bit more confusing, because there's a couple pages. This page here, it's a double page spread, so you're supposed to read it from left to right all the way across the page. When you're doing that, you really have to make sure that you know exactly where you're supposed to be reading next. I went from here to here to here to here to here, and then you're supposed to loop around. Or are you supposed to read from here to here to here to here to here? It's not really clear whatsoever. So the story, I had to reread it 2 or 3 times, and I still didn't really get it. And it's really too bad, because I do like a lot of this stuff. The narrative art, like I said, is which I don't know if that is due to the artist or due to the letterer, because some of these word balloons are not really, like if you're going from one place to another, like this here, this broke the panel border. If this is connecting to this, then this should be over here. If it's not, then this should be down here, and then you're saying you're actually looking at that. So I think it was supposed to be like this, and then like this, and then like this, but that's very unclear. And I don't really understand why they did that. So, like I said, a lot of the problems is with the art and the narrative art. So some of this stuff is good, but some of it, like him grabbing his shoulder, it's fine. It looks a little bit disjointed. I understand that. Foreshortening is hard. This is a really hard pose, and really difficult. But here, my big problem is this. It looks unnatural. That's one of the things about doing comics, is you have to make it look natural. Like this page here, this looks completely natural. Like you've got this figure up front, and you've got this you've got her, Julie, I think her name is, and then he's reaching over her, giving her the book. Perfect page, perfect layout, perfect narrative art. It's just they're trying to do this foreshortening thing here. This may have been better doing it like a side by side kind of thing, where he stabs him and he kind of falls back. Where you kind of see that he's falling back, but it's really done in a little bit of a quirky kind of way. So it's really kind of not really that interesting. It breaks the immersiveness, which is really one of my big things in reading a comic book. You've got to stay immersed in the story. It's just like virtual reality. If your immersion is broken, then it kind of ruins the whole thing. But another part of my dislike for the art, and it's not dislike, I do like a lot of the art. I like it. It doesn't have a lot of backgrounds. Perfectly okay, because it's painted or it's painterly, even though it's like a charcoal or a pastel or something like that. But one of the things that I learned early on, or one of the things that you do learn early on, is that for an interesting piece of art, you have dark darks and light lights. So if you've got like a wash or something, then you want to do a nice gradation, but you want the gradation to go from really white light or really light to really dark, to give it a really, a dynamic feel. And this loses it. This could have been so dynamic, could have had such great shadows, like the sides of their heads could have been in shadow. All of this darkness could have been really dark in the background to give it a creepy, scary feel. But everything is just so blended together. And yes, I do like the blending. I like the blending in his hand. I like the blending in his face. But I kind of wish that there was an outline. I kind of wish there was an inked outline. It's a little bit like Frank Miller's 300 and his Elektra stuff. Like, the interior coloring is just so fantastic, but his line work works so well with the interior coloring that it gives it so much more depth and so much more meaning. And it's so much more visually pleasing. And I really think that if there was line work covering over the characters and stuff, I think this would have been much more visually pleasing. I do understand what they were trying to do, and I do appreciate it. I just think it didn't work the way that they wanted it to, and I wish they had done like an overlay of the line work, and that would have made me much happier. I think some of this is airbrush. I think some of the backgrounds are possibly airbrushed. I don't know that for sure. Anybody that knows this, let me know if you know anything about this, or what happened, or how they did it, or what you guys think of the techniques. But so yes, that's some of the things about the art. The writing, the dialogue is fine. Like I said, my biggest problem is the narrative art, the narrative storytelling. It just gets a little bit confusing, and the fact that you don't know what character is talking to who. Like she says, "Goodbye, Uncle Randolph," and that's great. But he doesn't say her name. And this is the big page where I'm really get confused, because they don't go from panel to panel correctly, and it just loses you a little bit. So anyway, Anne Rice's The Mummy by Millennium, adapted by Faye Pirozich, layouts by John Herbert, Melissa Martin, painted by Mark Menendez, with Melissa Martin doing the art direction, and edited by Mark Ellis, Paul Davis. You can get this really cheap for $3 or $4 if you're really into Anne Rice's stuff. And it is worth having in your collection, because there is a lot of the stuff I do like about the art. The Egyptian stuff is really beautiful. And some of the faces and stuff are really pretty good, and I really do enjoy them. It's just these kind of things that it feels like it's. And the cover, I haven't talked about covers, and I really need to, because I really think that this is a beautiful cover. If the interiors was as dynamic and worked like the cover, I think I would have liked the interiors a lot more. But I'm gonna have to give this. Would I get another one? If I was out there and I saw, because this is number 1, and if I was out there and I saw The Mummy number 2, yes, I would get it. That's where it ends. Yeah, so it's a 7. I'm going to give it a 7. I would have loved to have given it more because of the art, because when you first glance at it, it looks really fantastic and really unusual and really good. But then once you get into the story and once you get into the narrative art and everything like that, then it kind of really leaves you longing for more, I guess. And the story is ho hum, not a lot of action, which is understandable. It's an adaptation, so that is what it is. So it's not the writer's fault. So I'm not. I guess I am deducting because I'm not as excited about it. But it is what it is. It's a 7. I can't give it lower than a 7. I probably would if I was not going to get more, if I did see them in the dollar bin. But I'm not going to go out and spend $3 or $4 on issue number 2. I'm just not that interested in the story, and I'm not that interested in the art and the writing. But other than that, it's okay. It's a 7. So why would I pick it up? That's a good question. If I'm not into it, why would I pick it up? Maybe because it is Anne Rice's stuff, and so that gives it a certain appeal. um, some of the painting stuff or some of the pastel stuff is intriguing, and I wouldn't mind seeing the rest of the story. And hopefully it gets a little bit better. I don't know. It's just something that I would pick up. I would pick it up in the dollar bin. So anyway, giving it a 7, The Mummy. If you are new to the channel and you just came across this because of Anne Rice's stuff or the Mummy stuff or whatever, this is the kind of stuff that I go over. I go over indie comics from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and wherever. Really just, it's not so much indie comics, it's just unusual stuff that I think is intriguing. Because I'll go over Marvel or DC or whatever, as long as I think that it has some sort of other merit other than, just something made for the masses. Some sort of artistic merit is what I'm really saying. So if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, giving me a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. But more than that, I love comments. I love talking about comic books and comic book making, comic book creating, comic book everything, distributing. I love talking about printing. I love all of the comic book talk. So that's one of the things. It'd be above anything and everything. I would love comments from you guys if you're new. But even if you're not new, throw me a comment. Do you like this Mummy? Do you have it? Do you like it? Do you want to get it? Are you Anne Rice's fan? Let me know. Do you like the painted leaf feel or of this, even though I don't feel like it's painted? Let me know. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So it's Friday, and hopefully I'm going to go see Superman on Saturday tomorrow, and then maybe me and Joe will be able to talk about it, and we'll discuss how much he hates it or how much he likes it. We will see. But hopefully we'll be making another video, and maybe I'll do another reading of Daredevil. I'm really kind of into that now. So let me know what you guys think about everything, and have a great weekend. We got more stuff to say, more stuff coming up next week. Have a great weekend. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep on creating.